Hire the Daily Dodge TV studio online. You can sponsor it too. If you want to bring more attention to your business, contact us by leaving a message at 920-885-4442 or click the Contact Us tab at dailydodge.com. Oh, I'm so sad. I'm Wally and I'm just so sad.
What's got you feeling so down, Wally?
Oh, hey, Randy from Professional Floor Covering. I spent my new radio money on a mansion, but the floors look like a bad Facebook Marketplace ad. How am I supposed to spend all winter staring at this?
Well, wipe those tears, my dear Wally. At Professional Floor Covering, we have the perfect solution for your mansion mayhem. Like a wide selection of carpet, hardwood, laminate, LVP tile, and more. We'll measure and provide the design suggestions, all at prices you'll love. Need more than flooring? Get brand new cabinets and countertops or a luxurious shower or tub conversion. Professional Floor Covering has everything you need to transform your space before you're shut in for the winter.
Randy, you're a hero.
That's quite the exaggeration, Wally. But when it comes to the selection at Professional Floor Covering, there's no embellishment when we say we'll find you everything. Just visit PROFLR.com or our showroom in Beaver Dam today and see for yourself.
Hey, it's Stacy with Slumberland, Beaver Dam in Watertown. Our President's Day sale is going strong and you can save big with lots and lots of doorbuster items. Save up to 60% off of list prices in-store and online. This amazing Edenfeld Bright Shades sectional is on sale for $999 and you get the matching ottoman completely free of charge. Now it's while supplies last, so you'll want to hurry in and take a peek at the floor model and see if we still have some new ones. $999, ottoman is completely free of charge. Or the Smiles accent chair for as little as $149. Lazy Boy chairs start as low as $399, and reclining sofas available in 2 different color options start as little as $499. Now, if Lazy Boy is your thing, check out our Lazy Boy sofas that start as little as $999, available in so many color options, it's absolutely crazy. Or ask us how to upgrade to Power. With our free doorstep shipping with localized and 36 months interest-free financing on $19.99 or more, you can save with all these President's Day specials. Slumberland Furniture, Beaver Dam, and Watertown.
They keep you informed on the Dodge County landscape. We keep the inside of your home looking great. Professional Floor Covering welcomes you to the next segment of Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
Welcome back to Community Comment here on 95.3 WBEV, and we are going to send it down to the Daily Dodge TV.
No. Caller, you are on Community Comment with Beaver Dam Police Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson.
Hi, good to talk to you again, Jeremiah.
Oh, hello, how are you? Tyler, correct?
Yes.
All right, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Fantastic.
I do got a question for you, though.
Go ahead, sir.
It's a stumper. I don't know if you guys have did it with your citizenship police academy, but I know when I went through it with my dad and ex-brother-in-law, my dad actually got tased, and I don't know if you guys have actually shown how taser works. But yep. I know when I did it for Watertown, they actually showed.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have our taser instructors. They come in and they do part of the defensive and arrest tactics and use of force stuff. And part of that experience, if anybody is interested, they can be exposed to the taser. They can actually get tased in a very controlled and responsible environment. I just wanted to, highlight that. But yes, we have many of our participants that take the plunge and they take the 5 seconds of the taser. And if that's not your thing, you don't have to do that. It's not a requirement or anything like that. I thought I would point that out. But it is incredibly educational to understand how that device works, whether you experience it yourself or observe it or learn about it. I think it has changed law enforcement for the better, and that we talk a lot about that simply because it gives us an alternative, a less lethal option that things could escalate, and that stops things from escalating. It's a very valuable thing. So. But yeah, you do have the opportunity to get exposed to a taser if that is what you are interested in. And a lot of people, I think half the class last year, I think we had 12 people and 6 of them decided to get tased. Yeah.
Even though it's safe and controlled, I think anyone going into that should know it still hurts.
It does. So I've been tased myself because being a police officer and I carry it, I wanted to know what it was like. And I will say that the 5 seconds that you are being exposed to the, I believe it's 50,000 volts, if I'm not mistaken, it disables you. You feel the pain. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say the pain's about an 8 or a 9. And the moment that it's done, that pain drops down to a 2 or 3. And you do need a couple of minutes to recover and kind of like get your bearings. But while it's on, while those 5 seconds are going, you are not able to fight back. You are essentially, you are disabled. And it works. It causes a disruption. Yeah.
Speaking of, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but speaking of non-lethal restraints, the police department did just roll out another
RAP.
kind. Yes, the RAP.
Yes.
Which I think also serves that goal of restraining people, but not lethally.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the RAP has had a little bit of study done to kind of create it. So long story short is when you are restraining someone, when you are taking them and transporting them to jail, or wherever it might be, you're taking into custody, we're responsible. We want to make sure people don't get hurt. We want to make sure we're not causing harm, things like that. The RAP has had that scientific study done where if it's applied properly, and we're all trained on how to use it to make sure it is deployed properly, the chances of someone getting hurt or experiencing some form of a positional asphyxia or the capability for them to injure themselves by either banging their head or other body parts against fixtures, squad cars, whatever that might be, it's all been addressed. And so when we have someone who's very, very uncooperative, having a bad day, if you will, that is another option for us where we can deploy that device, make sure it's properly secure, making sure that they're in a position where they can breathe, making sure that they're in a position where they cannot harm themselves, and also keeping themselves and the officers safe as well. So that's what the RAP is, and it's usually only used in cases where you have a very, very physically violent or uncooperative person.
Okay, and it goes from like the feet all the way up to the torso, doesn't it?
Correct.
It seems like to this layperson, it seems like it would be a lot of trouble to get an uncooperative person in that thing, but there must be a way.
Sure. Multiple officers assist in controlling the suspect at that point in time, and that's how they get them into the RAP. So it is a multiple officer situation, and what is nice is once the RAP is on, force does not have to be used anymore. It's a secure thing that stabilizes everyone that's inside the RAP. So it wraps around the legs. It takes away someone's ability to kick and bend their knees and push forward. So that's a huge safety thing. And then with the use of the handcuffs as well as the front wrap, it prevents them from flailing backwards and moving their hips, etc. Their hands are restrained as well, so they are not able to reach out and grab things, kick, punch, or anything like that. And then if needed, if someone is banging their head, there's also a device, a small soft helmet that would prevent them from injuring themselves if they're banging their head against an object. And these are all things that we've seen in law enforcement. It does happen, unfortunately, too frequently, I think, but having a device like that prevents that chance if those things do happen. If we do have that violent person, if we do have that very uncooperative, physically resistant person, we can take control and prevent them from hurting themselves or other people at that time. It really does calm things down. And that's the other thing too. We can also de-escalate as needed. If someone is calming down and that fight is out of their system and they tend to become cooperative again, then we de-escalate and we start removing the device and get them to where they need to be. And yeah, absolutely.
I know you wanted to talk a little bit about what everybody's responsibilities are at crosswalks.
Oh, sure.
Pedestrians and drivers.
Absolutely, yeah. So this has been coming up recently. We've noticed, especially around schools, people either not paying attention or not being able to slow down appropriately for people that are attempting to cross the crosswalks, or with our school crossing guards who are signaling to stop, that people are not, stopping for those students to crosswalk, excuse me, in the crosswalk or with the crossing guards. Just last year, I believe, maybe it was the year before, we had a crossing guard get injured essentially while a student was crossing, somebody had gone through the crosswalk, and that was not a good thing. So I just want to kind of talk about that again, since we're noticing maybe some issues in the community with it. So if you are driving through a school zone, make sure first of all you're following that school zone speed limit. Most of them are 15 here in the city of Beaver Dam. I believe Prairie View is a little bit different out on County Highway E and Crystal Lake Road, but most of them are 15 miles an hour. Be aware when there are students playing, especially when there's not a fence, if they are outside, if they are coming and going, parents are either dropping off or picking up, that's when the school zone is in effect. So remember that. School dismissal, school drop off in the morning, or even playground stuff. If you have students that are in or around the road, you have to definitely slow down and go that 15 miles per hour in that school zone speed limit. That gives you the opportunity to slow down a lot quicker if you need be. So number one, that's number one. Number two, when the crossing guards are out, they will display their stop sign, making sure that there's nobody coming or going. When you see that stop sign up, that is essentially a stop sign, a legal stop sign that you have to stop before the crosswalk. Slow, make a stop. And if you're going 15 miles per hour, it should be pretty easy to stop. Our crossing guards do their best to make sure that they're not pulling out that stop sign and causing you to slam on your brakes. But there are times where, that stop sign is going to be up and you will have to stop, so be aware of it, especially when you're in the school zone. And then just a reminder, whether there's a crossing guard or not, if there's anyone, a child or adult or anyone who is attempting to cross at a crosswalk, you should stop and yield the right of way to them. And especially if they're in that crosswalk and they have established themselves, they do have the right of way. So always be aware of that. The other reminder too, I was going to say too, if you're pulling off the road and let's say someone is crossing a sidewalk in front of a driveway or an alleyway, they do have the right of way. So always be careful on the turns. It's very easy to do, especially if you're not looking. The classic example is you have a red light and you're able to turn right on red. Don't forget to check the crosswalks because there might be people coming with a walk signal, depending on what angle you're coming from, etc. Always look both ways. That's one that we've noticed, as well as if there is someone who has a walk signal at a controlled intersection and you have a red light and you're turning, just be careful. Same thing with left turns too. If you have a left green arrow, they usually don't give the walk signal, but just be careful of where everyone's at. We don't want people getting hurt. So
We're talking with Beaver Dam Police Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson on this edition of Community Comment. We need to take a quick break for the news, but we'll be right back. You're listening to 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
Daily Dodge TV studios with Terry Bell for more of today's community comment.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you, everybody, for listening to today's edition of Community Comment. Our guest is Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson of the Beaver Dam Police Department. If you have a question or a comment for Jeremiah, you can join the program by calling or texting 920-887-9595 or by calling 885-4446. Recently, within, I think, maybe the start of the new year, a new law is in effect.
Yes, I think they passed it in 2025. Yep,
Okay.
Yep. So
Well, I think it just went into effect.
Correct.
Before we talk about that, though, you wanted to clarify
yes.
some things we were discussing about safely and legally driving through crosswalks.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, just a clarification about a controlled intersection where you have stop and go lights, the greens and the reds, if you will, and you have walk and don't walk signals. I said before, if there's a green arrow, look out. You should always be cautious when you have a green arrow. But very rarely will someone in an opposing line or crosswalk get a walk signal into the left turn signal for the car. That doesn't usually happen. But what I wanted to clarify is if there is an intersection that does have the walk and don't walk signals, those trump for the pedestrian the green and red lights. So there are times that a pedestrian will see a green light for the car traffic, if you will, and they will also have a don't walk sign. The pedestrian should follow the don't walk sign, even though they have a green light. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out. If you're a pedestrian, those walk and don't walk signs trump the red and green lights at the stop and go lights. So yeah, just to clarify that. So there are times where you might see a green light. That doesn't mean you can go, and it does if there's no don't walk or walk signs there, then it's, you get the right of way there. But that's where we need people to be cautious in those times of areas where the light just turns green and you've got pedestrians to your side. Make sure you're watching them to see what's going on and paying attention to those walk and don't walk signals if they are there. So there you go. Thank you.
We've been talking a lot about drivers. What are some of the responsibilities of a pedestrian in a crosswalk situation?
Sure, absolutely. So the number one thing is obviously you're in those controlled intersections, like I was saying, the walk and don't walk signals. Those are your boss. You will see most of them either count down or you will see the don't walk signal start to flash. If you're already in the crosswalk, you're good to go. Finish crossing and get there safely. But if you haven't established yourself yet, if you're still waiting on the corner and it starts to flash don't walk, that's kind of like your yellow light. That doesn't mean hurry up and go. That means stay there and wait for the next signal. That means there's not enough time to cross if you haven't started yet. So that's what that means. So that's number one. Number two is anytime you're crossing the road at a crosswalk, at a marked or unmarked crosswalk, that is, at an intersection, whatever that might be, make sure that you give the passing motorist enough time to stop and yield the right of way to you. Failure to do that, obviously you could get hurt. That'd be bad. But they call it sudden pedestrian traffic, or sudden pedestrian movement into traffic is the name of that law. So you want to avoid that. You want to make sure that you look both ways, no cars coming, you start to go. Now, if someone starts getting close to you, they should yield the right of way and stop as you are crossing the road. But you don't want to jump out in front of a car thinking that, they have enough time to stop, because you need to judge that. That's the number one thing. So that's what I'm trying to say is don't jump out in front of a car just because you have the right of way. That's not good for anyone. So,
okay, very good.
Yeah.
Now, recently, for years in Wisconsin, drivers have had to pull over or slow down in certain situations. Recently, some new additions have been made to that. New situations where drivers have to either slow down or pull over.
Correct. So the law has, and I think for many, many years, I want to say back in like 2001 is when they passed the original one, where if you saw a squad car, an ambulance, a fire truck on the side of the road, those emergency vehicles, you had to either move over or slow down. Recently, they've added maintenance vehicles, and they've also added disabled vehicles. So if you have a vehicle that has its four-way flashers on, if the vehicle doesn't have its four-way flashers on, but you have one or more people working on the car, and they're visible outside of that car, the hood's up, they're working on something on the engine, they're pulled over on the side of the road, that also counts as a vehicle that you need to move over or slow down for. So I just wanted to talk about. So it's any maintenance vehicle, those flashing lights, whether they be blue, red, yellow, a tow truck, also in there. And now disabled vehicles where you put on your four-way flashers, or sometimes your four-way flashers don't work. If you're out working on that, vehicle, and you see that on the side of the road as a driver, you have to either move over or slow down. Move over is more important. That is the preferable thing. So if you're on 151, you have those 2 lanes going the same direction, you should move over. Okay, that's number one. That gives you extra space for the people to work and do what they need to do, whether they be emergency workers or people just working on their car, et cetera, et cetera. That's the primary goal, is to get you to move over. If for some reason you cannot move over, or let's say we have the perfect example of every other city street in the city of Beaver Dam, for the most part, is a one-way, single-direction traffic. Obviously, move over as far as you can, but that is when the second option kicks in, is to slow down significantly. So I would highly recommend, if the speed limit's 25, drop them below 20 to slow down in case there's something that happens where that vehicle moves out quickly, somebody falls, slips, whatever it might be. They are suddenly in your lane of travel, or who knows what could happen. You are able to respond in time. So it gives you extra space by moving over and your ability to slow down.
Yeah, in fact, it seems like there was a fairly recent case of some driver who was disabled. They pulled over and got out of the car, which is not recommended.
Right.
But conditions were slippery, and they got hit by a vehicle that was passing by. All of that could have avoided if, one, the driver had stayed in the car, and two, if the driver had moved over to the other lane.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, and that's why they put that law in effect, and that's why they wanted to address the disabled vehicles as well as the maintenance vehicles, the tow trucks, and the original emergency vehicles as well too. So I think it's a good law. It's going to take a while for people to remember that. I come into contact, I think, with just as many disabled vehicles in the winter as I would emergency vehicles out on the side of the road sometimes. And it's just important to remember that even though there's not red and blue flashing lights on the back of a disabled vehicle, you still got to move over and slow down, give them some space, just because you don't know what's going on with the vehicle.
Are there fines for not?
There are, and I apologize, I don't have those readily available with our municipal court in the city of Beaver Dam. It's different depending on what jurisdictions you are in, but yeah, there is a definite, if you're issued a citation for it, there's a definite fine associated with it. So, yeah.
Very good. Okay. We're talking to Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson of the Beaver Dam Police Department. We need to take one last quick break, but we'll be right back. You're listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
for today's community comment in the Daily Dodge TV studios. Here's Terry Bell.
Thank you so much, Jake Hayes. We're just a few minutes left with Lieutenant Jeremiah Johnson. So if you do have a question or a comment, you can call or text 920-887-9595, or you can call 885-4446. Cell phones, we all have them, smartphones, but they can cause some unexpected problems sometimes too. And you wanted to talk a little bit about what happens with accidental 911 calls.
Yes. So, first of all, have you ever done it? Have you ever accidentally called 911?
Not 911, no.
Okay, all right. I have. I did it, and it was put a button on the side of my cell phone. So I had a brand new cell phone, put it in my cup holder of my squad car. I was on duty, and it's sitting there. And as it's bouncing around in the cup holder, it's hitting the side button several times. And before I know it, I hear, what is it? And it's the dispatcher is asking why I'm calling 911, and I had to explain to them a new cell phone. So this happens quite a bit. And it first of all, I just want to say this is not the end of the world. I mean, it's try to avoid it if possible, because it does take up the time of the dispatchers. But you're not going to get in trouble unless you're sitting there doing it on purpose. And I think sometimes that people, when this happens to them, a lot of times like a new Apple Watch, and they're hitting buttons and they're trying to connect to their phone. There's a certain way to do it. If you're in panic, you can hit the button several times. If you don't turn that feature off when you first get your watch or your phone, it's going to happen.
Okay.
So, or if you are a person who wants it, you have to be aware of it, that when you're turning your alarm off in the morning and you're hitting your, pushing your buttons is,
I wasn't even aware of that feature.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if you have an iPhone, and that's what I'm familiar with, and I believe Samsung devices and other brands have similar functions as well. Check your settings. If this is something that you want, or if this is something that you want to avoid the accidental dial, especially if it keeps continually happening, you want to be aware of it. So what I was trying to say is it's not the end of the world, and I want to talk about what to expect if you do accidentally dial 911. Stay on the line if you can, answer their questions, and 9 times out of 10, everything will be fine. So the reason why, and I think a lot of people, when this happens to them and they have an accidental dial, they don't understand why the dispatchers are asking as many questions as they have. And the reason why is because every 911 call is treated seriously. And we have had situations in the past for years and years and years where people call 911 and they can't say what the emergency is, but they're trying to say that they need help.
Are they maybe in the presence of someone who might be harming them?
That could be it. Okay. Yes, that could be one example. The other one, it could be literally where they're unable to speak. Perhaps they're choking or whatever it might be. But there's reasons why the dispatchers have to ask questions. You know what I mean? And those. But that's the primary example. If they're in the presence of someone, they're under duress, and for some reason, whatever it is, they're unable to answer questions or shouldn't be, or whatever it might be. So the reason why those 911 dispatchers ask those questions is they're looking for your level of cooperation to assess the situation and essentially see, does law enforcement need to get involved? So there are times where someone, if they're not cooperative and they don't answer the questions, and there's some questions you don't have to answer, it's okay, but just spend some time and explain the situation to the dispatcher. It's very, very much appreciated, because then we can gauge what sort of response we need. If this was just a simple mistake dialing, all right, very well, we might swing by and take a look at the building and stop in and say, hi, everybody okay, great. Or if there's something very, very, a lot of red flags raising up, things like that, that we will respond differently. I know I've had domestic sort of situations arise where someone had called 911, did not answer the questions to a satisfactory level. We go knock on the door, and it turns out that there was a physical fight that had occurred between a husband and a wife, and that was the wife trying to ask for help, and she did. She got the help that she needed. But I just wanted to talk about that and say this is kind of why the dispatchers ask as many questions as they do. And when you accidentally dial 911, it helps everybody out by just answering the questions, kind of staying on the line with them. There are times where 911 will call back, or dispatchers will call the phone back. There are times where people will dial 911, they don't answer. It's rummaging around in their pocket, and they can hear like someone walking and the fabric of the pocket over the top of the phone. They will hang up and they will call back and they'll say, hey, Dodge County Central Dispatch, you guys just called 911. Is everything okay? Try your best to answer those situation questions and stuff like that. So we appreciate that because it is a very common thing that happens.
Okay.
And deputies and police officers in Dodge County are responding to these calls probably several times a day. Yep.
What you were just telling me reminded me of a situation I think might be helpful to listeners. The only time I ever called 911 in my life was when I was working in the office at a school and a child was having a medical emergency.
Oh, sure.
And when I was on the phone with the dispatcher, what I did not realize is she had sent first responders out right away and was asking me a lot of questions so that the first responders could be as best informed as they could be when they got to the school.
Right.
I misunderstood the situation. I thought she was asking me a lot of questions before sending help.
Oh, sure.
And I was starting to get rather irate because I thought this child wasn't going to get the help they needed.
Yeah.
I got the situation wrong, as it turns out. The folks who responded pulled me aside and let me know
that they're still
my
on their
mistake.
Way. Sure.
And I'm glad they did because I didn't really understand what was happening. I thought, please stop asking me questions and send help. But questions is part of the process, and help was actually already on the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a very good point because a lot of people, if you're the person on the other end of the line, you may not know it that the dispatcher is creating a call, is putting all your responses to the questions that they answer into the call. So your first responders, whether that be your firefighters, your EMS, your police, they're seeing those updates pop into the call as they drive to you. The other thing that happens sometimes too, depending on what type of call it is, there are several dispatchers working. When a 911 call comes in, you can have one dispatcher literally talking to you, just essentially doing that primarily, and there might be another dispatcher who hears that call and is listening in. They're typing the notes in. They're talking on the radio to the police officers and the firefighters, letting them know all the updates as it happens. You may not be able to hear that in the background of your 911 call if you're the person calling. So, yeah, and all that information helps us out knowing what we're getting into. We can plan ahead. And I mean, sometimes there's things that change where, you think you're walking into one situation and turns out to be something completely different. But the more information we have, the better we can, and the quicklier. Quicklier, yes, yeah, that's a word. I'm pretty sure that is. We'll write that one down. I invented that. But yeah, the quicker we can respond and get you the help that you need. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anything else people ought to know about calling 911 that they might not know?
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to say with modern cell phones, a lot of the times we do get a fairly decent location of where you're at. But it is important to also tell the dispatcher your address and where you are at because they may not be 100% accurate or it used the last signal. Sometimes you walk into your basement and it's putting you out on the street and it doesn't know what address to put you in because it didn't update from the last time it had a good GPS signal. So those types of questions, it might seem silly with today's technology, but it's very, very important to have that. The landline 911 is different than a cell phone 911. The landlines, typically are able to provide an address, and that's through the phone company that you order it through, and that's good. But sometimes we get a 911 call that is through a cell phone tower. And all we know is that it's on this side of Beaver Dam. Yep, exactly. So that's when that happens. We will attempt to call back as much as possible too. So that's important.
Yeah, and I'm just amazed at the technology that makes it possible to call 911 when your battery's dead.
Yeah. Okay. When your battery's dead. Oh.
Yeah, or pretty close to dead. I mean,
it still pushes through, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have not heard of this actually, so
All
I'm,
right.
I'm not familiar.
I hope
with
I'm
it.
not getting that wrong. That
No.
was the impression I was under.
So it still goes. I mean, I would imagine that if you're dialing 911, it has the capability of overriding whatever preset. You know, the phone will try to protect the battery. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, to the point where like it's not going to recharge. You know, then you got to buy a new battery. I suppose the programming in there will protect the battery, but you know, if it still has enough juice to call 911 to report your problem, it's probably a pretty cool thing then. Yeah. It's the first I've heard of it. I don't think I've stumbled across that.
I'll follow up on that and make sure I got that information correct.
Sure.
We have just a minute left in the show. Anything else you'd like to remind everybody about?
Just swing by if you're interested in the Citizens Police Academy. That's one thing. Those applications are due February 15th. Be safe out there. I see the roads are a little snowy right now. Not quite sure. I can't see out the window right now. I'll see if that's stopped. But don't forget to leave plenty of space between you and the vehicle in front of you. When you're in a school zone, watch those school zone speeds, especially when there's children present. That is when they're in effect. And make sure we're paying attention to our crossing guards and giving them the space that they need to safely get those kids across the street.
Very good.
Drive those points home. So
Okay. Jeremiah Johnson, the hour flew right by. Thanks
sure
so
did.
much for coming by and talking with us.
Thanks again for having us.
And thank you for listening to Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.